Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen. Chris Smitherman behind the scenes. I'm Dave Holcomb in a remote studio this week. Thought I was going to have a live studio audience too, Tom, but couldn't sell any tickets. Nobody here in the room.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need that extra cash. Come on, folks.
Right, yeah. But even though no one's here live with me, hopefully you're listening wherever you are. Hopefully you had a great Thanksgiving, maybe enjoying a turkey leg while you're, listening to us today on the show, or listening, on replay on Sunday or Monday or whenever you make us a part of your week. We appreciate that. Yeah. And we're going to talk Falcons Commanders tomorrow. I'll actually be going to the game, Tom. I'm really excited about it. Should be a great matchup.
Yeah.
And another really important matchup for, the Falcons building a winning culture and staying in the playoff hunt.
Well, that's the thing. Every time you think the Falcons are about to fall out of it, they come back into it. So, they were being dominated by the Bears last week, and all of a sudden Cordero Patterson, take off for the touchdown. Next thing you know, the Falcons are back in the game, it wasn't over. They went ahead and disappointed me, but I know thrilled a lot of Atlanta fans. But yeah, I mean, the Commanders have won 5 out of 6. And they're playing in a division where every team is above 500 right now.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a challenge. Plus, the Commanders are ahead of the Falcons in the wildcard standings.
Right.
So you have got to take this to have the head-to-head advantage when at the end of the season. That counts so much when you're trying to be 6th or 7th in the playoffs. That's where it hits you. You got to have that man-to-man, face-to-face advantage.
Yeah, and last week was a huge win for a lot of reasons, staying in the playoff hunt, as you said. It keeps Marcus Mariota at quarterback too, because the team stays in the playoff hunt. We talked all about last week, when could we see Desmond Ridder? Doesn't look like that's going to happen now, at least for the next week or two, I would say. Falcons still have a bye week coming up, and if they, maybe drop these next 2 games and then go into their bye week 3 games below 500, at that point, maybe we see Desmond Ridder, but they have 2 pretty winnable games here coming up. Washington's going to be tough, but if they're able to win that game, then they play the Steelers at home. So you're looking at another scenario where this team could be above 500 for the first time since 2017 if they're able to win these next 2 games against, opponents with similar or below 500 records.
Isn't that funny how we keep saying that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to keep saying it until they do it, until they move above that 500 mark by a game.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, Washington's been winning those, so you got to be careful of that. They've been finding ways to win.
Yeah.
And showing why Riverboat Ron is a very good coach and just a great guy, but also shows that he is a top coach in the NFL because he's managed to keep this team with Carson Wentz starting out the season so badly, and Taylor Heineke may not, Taylor Heineke, my God, how do you pronounce that name?
Heineke?
Taylor Heineke, not playing great, but playing good enough to get the Commanders back up, 1.5 game out of the playoff picture. And they do have a victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. So, I mean, this team is not a stranger to big games and is not a stranger to coming up big in big games.
So we'll have a full breakdown of the Falcons-Commanders matchup, Week 12 in the NFL. We're also going to get to we're not doing Love Loathe this week. We're going to do things we're thankful for. I have 3 things Falcons fans should be thankful for, I think, this time of year, this weekend, where we're giving thanks for everything in our lives. So I'm going to have that segment, and then we'll, of course, do Nostradamus Predicts. You have some picks for us against the spread, as you always do. Then we have our prize picks to wrap up the show with our Super Bowl picks after 11, should I say 11 and a half weeks, since we already got 3 games in week 12.
Yeah, we're right. We already got 3 games in the books.
Yeah.
So pretty wild.
We'll conclude the show with that. And that brings us to our sponsor. Today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app, use our promo code ASU to get started. When you do, that gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So you free money there. Could get up to free $100 to get started there in Prize Picks. And coming up a little bit later, we'll have our picks that we would recommend in week 12.
Yep, absolutely. And, plenty of football. And that's what this show is all about, is the NFL and football. But, you got college football. You got college basketball starting up.
Yeah.
The World Cup soccer. If you want to guess how many shots your favorite striker is about, going to try and get in any particular game, you got that option.
You don't want to guess goals after yesterday's 0-0 draw and England US. You don't want to go over under half a goal. Is that what it would be?
Well, they only have one player on the over under goal list.
Really?
Is Lionel Messi for Argentina. So other than that, it's shots, clearances, tackles, red or yellow cards. That's an interesting one. So you do have a lot of different opportunities, but goals is not one of them. Shots on goal, as I say, get your favorite striker, and how many shots is he going to get during these next games? Yeah, it's amazing. 90 minutes of soccer, nobody can score.
Right.
My God, come on.
Did you watch the game yesterday?
No, I didn't watch the game. I was a little busy yesterday. I had a lot to do. So,
Chris, are you a World Cup fan? Did you watch the U.S. yesterday?
I didn't. So I'm a World Cup fan. I mean, I did not watch the U.S. game yesterday. I was traveling. But I did see the social media highlights. I mean, I thought the USA fans all saying it's called soccer. I got a kick out of that. But I think it's a bit anticlimactic when you do something like that and then end in a draw. I mean, I think that, it's kind of like you get called this and it's like, well, you're now better than us at it. I think that made a statement. But I mean, I think the biggest upset, was Saudi Arabia. I mean, everybody's talking about that. I mean, I don't think anybody thought that would happen. So if that was on Prize Picks and you put a bet on that, you definitely made out good on that game.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, there you go.
So who did Saudi Arabia beat? I'm sorry, I'm not following the tournament really.
Argentina.
Argentina.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's why everyone was like, they were so surprised. I mean, it was kind of like, oh, did this really just happen?
That's one of the few things Argentina does well.
Yeah.
Wow, an Argentina diss.
Yeah.
Didn't think we were getting Argentina smack on the show today.
Yeah, I thought, well, there goes our Argentine fans. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I agree. I don't want to, diss soccer in a big way because some things other people enjoy and you don't. Why take a crap on it? It's just people like different things, right?
Yeah.
So I try to have that attitude, but I have tried to get into soccer before, and I think it was a big Premier League game a few years ago. I tried to start following Arsenal because Arsenal was the closest team to where I studied in London a few years back. And, they hype up the game just like a NFL game all week.
Sure. It's big.
Prime time, whatever, ends in a draw. And it's just like so anticlimactic that it's like nobody won. There was no conclusion. It was just, and I get there are ties in the NFL sometimes, but obviously that's a lot, under 1% of the games in the NFL end in a tie. And
the NFL did something about it. They got tired of all the ties.
Well, there's actually more. They did something to add more ties by shortening overtime.
Well, that's true too. And I hated that. That was a TV network shortening overtime. And anytime the TV networks get involved, I thought
it was a player safety thing too.
Well, they try and
They tried to make it about that, but it really
Make
wasn't.
it all about player safety. It's not about player safety. It's about the networks wanting to get on to the next game. That's all it is. They call player safety. They sweep a lot of these things under the rug of player safety.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. That's true. But yeah, that's my overall take on ties in soccer. I get that it's a thing that just part of your sport. And I guess if you're a soccer fan, you're used to it. But being a casual fan trying to get into it, it is very different. I was watching
kind of being an NHL fan, you used to get a lot of ties.
Yeah, that's true. And you just kind of, you're used to it, just like you're used to the 3 numbers in your record. And they used to have 4 numbers in your record.
Yes.
A while ago in the NHL. So that was just a very unique hockey thing that casual fans probably didn't like. But
no,
I was watching the game yesterday with my mom a little bit, and what did she say? She didn't ask why the clock was going up. I think she knew that the clock goes up in soccer, but she was like, why does it go up? She didn't like that part of the game either.
These pesky Europeans just they drive on the left side of the road and they count their clock up instead of down. That's, there's just nothing you can do about it.
Real quick, I'll chime in, Tom, to make a joke. Just to make a quick joke. Just funny thing is, I'd say the wackiest thing I found out recently, and I know this is getting a little off, but in the U.S. Virgin Islands, they have left steering wheels, but then they drive on the left from the British influence. Yeah. So that is probably the craziest thing I've ever even heard in terms of backward wonkiness. I was like, that just seems dangerous. But
well, try driving with the steering wheel on the right and then driving on the left side of the road.
Yeah, but at that point, it seems a little more intuitive that way because you're kind of going left and there. I'm saying you're on the. I don't know how you got the left wheel, left this, left that. It scared the heck out of me. But that's just what happens when you start blending the, as you quoted it, wacky stuff with the stuff that we call normal. So
yeah, right.
Right. Well, now that we turned off, I think every soccer fan that watches our show.
Yeah, I think we did. We did a job on it.
We'll get back to the NFL. Falcons playing a big game against the Commanders tomorrow. I was looking at recent history between the Falcons and, they haven't played each other since the team became the Commanders, but Falcons football team matchup last year, and then Falcons playing the Washington Redskins for a long time. The Falcons have dominated this series recently. Since 2006, the Falcons have won 6 of 7 against the Commanders / football team / Redskins. And but the one win that the Commanders have was last year in Atlanta. And if Falcons fans remember, that was one of those typical Falcons up by 8 points in the fourth quarter and blew the game with 2 touchdowns from the Commanders late in the game. And that was a game that Heineke played really well. And that was going to be one of my kind of keys to the game, this matchup. Heineke really hasn't played all that well during this winning streak. He's taking care of the ball and not, making major mistakes, but he's not like throwing the ball all over the place. And the reason why they're winning all these games. But last year against the Falcons, he was the reason why they won. 300 and I'll have to double check. I think it was 389 passing yards for him in that game and 3 touchdowns.
I can double check that real quick. I got it here.
I'm a little bit off. 290 passing yards, 290, didn't hit the 300-yard total, but he did have 3 touchdowns, a rating of 127. Yep. So, I mean, one of the better games probably of Heineke's career.
Right.
Against the Falcons on the road last year. And there are differences in this year's Falcons defense, but, I think the big key for me, if I want to oversimplify this game, is taking care of the ball for the Falcons and then, doing a lot of what Houston did against Washington's offense, doing a lot of what Philadelphia did against Washington's offense. Philly let them run the ball a little bit too much, but the last 2 games, Washington has 6 takeaways on defense. During this winning streak that you were talking about, they've had 12 takeaways in the last 6 games. So taking care of the ball is
which is odd,
huge for the Falcons tomorrow. They
Right.
can't have any giveaways by Mariota and the ground game.
Yeah, they gave the ball away twice against the Bears, and actually the Bears took advantage of it and took command of that game for a while.
Yeah.
So you can't do that. That's the worst thing. Yet that just killed the Falcons last week, but they managed to overcome it.
Well, with the special teams play you were talking about, Cordell
Yeah.
Patterson going into the record books. Congratulations to him. Record for most kickoff return touchdowns in a career, 9. Got his 9th last year. He'd been sitting on 8 for a while, partially because the rules changed. There's so many touchbacks now in the league, but he got that record-breaking 9th return, which was awesome to see, and it was huge in the game. Absolutely huge play.
Yeah, considering you really don't get too many chances at kickoff returns anymore. It's a whole different game than when you were able to set the record even 10 years ago. You just don't get the chances to do it. So, yeah, it is a special record for Cordero Patterson. The main problem with the Atlanta Falcons, what they're going to have to overcome is Mariota did not impress me one bit last week.
I'm laughing because it's a theme. I mean, we've been saying that for a while, right? That Mariota hasn't been impressive.
Well, he hasn't. It was terrible last week. And again, that's why the Bears had control of the game for a while. Took 17-10 lead. Mariota really wasn't doing much of anything. Then Kyle Pitts went down, and he's going to be missing for tomorrow's game, which is huge.
Yeah.
But, I don't think Mariota did a whole lot that impressed me, that made me think that he's still a guy who's going to lead this offense to the promised land or get this team into the playoffs. He's the weakest link as far as their offense goes, and that's not what you want for a quarterback.
13 of 20 for 131 yards last week for Mariota with the touchdown. Didn't throw an interception, didn't get sacked. That's the big positive.
Right.
But
you're playing one of the worst defenses in the league right now.
Well, yes, and I was going to say it's also hard, and just with all the scoring in the league, I guess scoring is down this year, but still, it's an offensive-driven league. You don't want the best thing that about your quarterback to be that he didn't get sacked and he didn't throw an interception.
Right. Which, are pluses as far as Mariota goes, but still, again, you're facing one of the worst defenses in the league. You're facing a defense without a leader right now. Eddie Jackson's a good leader in the secondary, but without Roquan Smith at linebacker, nobody's really taken over for the Bears. And that's something that the Falcons really should have taken advantage of, and they weren't. The Bears were swarming on defense, and really surprised me that the Falcons did not do more on offense last week. Last week was why I kept saying it was the best week to start Desmond Ridder, because you were facing a defense you could beat.
Yeah. No, I agreed. I agreed that I thought we had seen enough from Mariota against the Chargers, and then especially against the Panthers. You had an extra long week to prepare for the Bears because you played Thursday the prior week. So it seemed like a perfect time to start Ridder, but you stuck with Mariota, won another game, so you're going to stick with him, I think, for at least 2 more games here. And the Falcons bye comes out after the matchup against the Steelers on December 4th, next Sunday. So
it's a late bye.
You can reevaluate at that point, perhaps. But if he wins either of these next 2 games, I think we're going to see Mariota the rest of the season.
Well, the hell of it is, you come out of the bye against the New Orleans Saints, which is a team you should beat. A team they should have beaten in week 1.
Yeah.
And isn't a team that really has not gotten better as the season's gone on. This is a team you should beat. So, you've got 3 games coming up against teams you should beat.
They have a relatively easy schedule down the stretch, too, just overall. And I think that's another.
You got the Ravens, which are going to be tough.
That is tough. That is a tough game. And then you got Tampa Bay again, and depending on how you view Tampa Bay, if that's a tough game or not, it is a home matchup for Atlanta. So Falcons never beaten Tom Brady, so that of course is a factor there. But I don't think there's going to be a quarterback.
It's a team that doesn't seem to have a center for me. I'm not sure what Tampa Bay team you're going to see. They don't seem to have any consistency. It's a tough team. It's a team that I don't know if they're rallying around anybody right now. And Todd Bowles, that's a problem for him as a head coach.
I want to see how they play tomorrow, because I thought they found something in Germany against Seattle, and then we haven't seen them play since. So we'll see how, if they were able to run the ball with that rookie in Germany against the Seahawks. So I want to see if they do that, if they come out and try to really establish the run, which they really haven't even tried to do most of the season, but they did against the Seahawks. We'll see if that's something they do again, and if they're able to take that game plan from Germany and kind of use it for the last quarter of the season, and if that's something that the Falcons will have to deal with in a few weeks. Gary has a question for us. It's supposed to rain a lot in Landover, Maryland tomorrow. With all that rain, which team will have the advantage, Tom?
Oh, God. I don't know if rain bothers a lot of teams anymore.
I'll tell you what, it's going to bother my family in the stands. It's going to bother them a lot.
It's going to bother Marcus Mariota because he's not accurate to begin with. You're going to see a lot of running. I mean, but that's what the Falcons do well.
Right.
Is they run the ball.
And that's really what Washington wants to do too. So I'm not sure there's really a big advantage for either team.
Right.
Although Atlanta is an indoor team. They play in a dome. So perhaps there's a small advantage for the Commanders. But I think it's small if there's even an advantage.
Yeah, but you still got, you got two teams that's what they do well, is run the ball. That it's not going to affect the game as much as you would think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I agree with that. Well, there's plenty to be thankful for, even though the Falcons still have a below 500 record. I think they're trending in the right direction overall. So I made a list of 3 things that I think Falcons fans can be thankful for. We'd love to hear from you guys listening. What are you thankful for this season? Doesn't have to be Falcons related. It could be anything, but particularly Falcons. If there's something that I miss on my list that you really think is a bright spot for the team right now, let us know. Send us a comment. If you're watching on replay, tweet at us at TJ Pollen, at DM Holcomb. So I think the number one thing, and this isn't 100% Falcons being thankful for, but the division that the Falcons are in gives them an opportunity to get into the playoffs and have some experience that most players on the team don't have. And even if that results in a home playoff loss to the 49ers or the Seahawks or the Cowboys, some real tough top wild card team this January, I still think the opportunity to go into the playoffs and have a home playoff game for this squad is something to be thankful for. And it's possible because of the division that they're in. The other teams, the Buccaneers, Saints, and Panthers are inconsistent, just like the Falcons are.
Yeah, they struggle. As I say, with the Buccaneers, I don't see they played well for a couple of weeks now, but they're not as fearsome defensively as they've been the last couple of years. And I don't know if you have 100% Brady out there right now to lead your offense. So it's been a rough stretch. It's been a rough go for the Buccaneers. This is a team that tends to get better as the season goes on. So don't count them out yet. But, take advantage of it while you can. If they're playing rough, if they're having problems, take advantage of it now. Put some pressure on them for later in the season.
I'll tell you what, the Buccaneers are real thankful that they're in the NFC South too.
Yes,
it gives them an opportunity to, put their early season inconsistencies and struggles behind them, and they still have an opportunity to have a home playoff game, get hot, and make a playoff run with, the best quarterback of all time. So
Right.
that's not an opportunity that say the Packers have. The Packers are having a similarly bad season, and they have no chance at all to host a playoff game in January. And they're even further back in the standings than Tampa Bay. Tampa's got 5 wins.
I was about to say, they may not even make the playoffs this year the way they're playing.
But that's what I'm saying. It's a harder road for them, not just to the Super Bowl because of the road playoff game in the first round, but making a wild card is going to be harder than winning the NFC South this year.
It is.
Even with the extra wild card spot that wasn't around a few years ago, it's still harder. With the 49ers, 49ers, I guess, are ahead in the NFC West, but with the Seahawks, Cowboys, and Giants all playing really well, Commanders in there as well, the Packers have a tough road to a wild card spot, whereas Tampa Bay, if they take care of business in the division, they get a home playoff game.
Right.
That's what the NFC South gives teams.
Yep, exactly. So, and, we've said this earlier in the season. This is the time to take advantage. Now the Buccaneers have won 2 games in a row, but, Seattle beating Seattle in Germany was impressive. But the Los Angeles Rams haven't impressed anybody this year.
Right.
So I'm not overwhelmed with that victory. So there's still a lot the Buccaneers have to prove to me that they are ready to come back and that they're ready to challenge again. Because I think it's a team in disarray. So this is when you want to take advantage. These next 3 games for the Falcons, this is what you need. Put the pressure on Tampa Bay that they haven't had the last couple of seasons. They've looked at the NFC South and said, okay, let's see what kind of scenarios we can get into with the playoffs. And that's just the way it's been.
Yeah.
They didn't have to worry about the Panthers, Falcons, and Saints challenging them. Well, they got challenged this year. So let's see how they react.
Well, continuing on my list, 2022 draft class for the Falcons is really proving to be a nice class. And I think maybe could be the number one reason to be thankful for the Falcons, because even beyond this season, this team has some really nice pieces from this recent draft class that they're going to build around in the coming years. Drake London, obviously, we've talked about a lot as the number 1 pick at wide receiver, but they've added some nice pieces to the defense. 2nd-round pick Aaron Ebiketie had a really nice game last week against the Bears. It was a career high in tackles for him. 6 tackles last week. Got his first full sack of his career. Troy Anderson is playing well at linebacker. Tyler Algier, of course, contributing in the running back room. And then we haven't seen what Desmond Ridder is. So there's still a lot of optimism that maybe he's the answer at quarterback. So a really great draft class, I would say. I would even say
it is.
One of the best draft classes of the Falcons in a long time. And you got to pile up these draft classes, especially when you're up against the salary cap, as the Falcons have been the last few years. That's how you build your team always, but especially when you can't sign any free agents whatsoever. But the salary cap situation will get better in the future, and that'll give you an opportunity to lock up some of these guys long term, but also continue to build around these guys with short-term solutions and free agency. So
exactly.
But this is the first really big brick in the Arthur Smith era, this 2022 draft class that's playing really well.
Yeah, it is. And that's kind of, it'll keep you out of draft. It'll keep you out of salary cap hell, which is what the Mitrov's drafts did to the Falcons. They had to sign free agents, 5-year contracts, overpay for players that didn't produce. So, but if you're getting your young guys coming in, you're going to stay out of salary cap hell. You're always going to be able to plug in for the short term. That's you hit it exactly. That's perfect. This is the way you want to build a team. And this is a great. They've done a great job of of putting some building blocks in place. Algier, man, that guy is a tough runner.
Yes.
Geez, it's like trying to bring down a Mack truck. It's just it's amazing. So, but yeah, I mean, London is a top receiver. He's already a top receiver in the game. Forget rookie now. He's done being a rookie. All right. He is. He's done being a rookie. He's a receiver. Ebiketie, we want to see more from, but, we still got half a season left. Let's see how he improves the rest of the year. Troy Anderson's been playing strong. Yeah, this is a great draft class. So, and this is what you got to get. You got to get a game breaker in the first round. You got to get depth in the second through fourth rounds. And I think the Falcons accomplished that this year.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And
I think so
if you get fifth through seventh, if you get somebody, that's a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And Algier's been one of the bonuses for this year. So, they've done everything possible to everything you want to see out of a draft class. And I'm very impressed with what the Falcons have been able to do. I think they put a lot of good pieces in place to start building. A lot of young guys to start building around.
And the last thing I think Falcons fans should be thankful for is Arthur Smith. And it kind of all starts with him and Terry Fontenot. But Arthur Smith, I think, has really done – we've criticized him on the show.
Yes, we have.
Quite a bit, I would say, this season and maybe even last year. And I think he still deserved that criticism. I'm not walking back on that. But I want to send some love to him today. I think he's done a good job overall for the Falcons, trying to build a new culture there, a culture that really was down with Dan Quinn. And just anytime this team had a lead in the fourth quarter, it just crumbled. And it was just kind of expected that, oh, we have a lead in the fourth quarter. Well, it's not going to last. And it just happened over and over again. And it happened last year against Washington with Arthur Smith in his first season. But I do think he's done a pretty good job of changing that narrative slowly and still haven't had a winning record yet in the Arthur Smith era, but they're getting closer. And they are slowly, I think, laying the foundation for success in the future. And it all starts with, the head man in Smith.
Yeah, I wish they had a better quarterback because that's the center of your team. That's the most important player you're going to have on the field. But even without the quarterback, I think Smith has done a good job of making this offense. And not just the offense. The head coach should set the tone for the team. He's the guy who's going to make the culture for your team. And I think Arthur Smith has done a great job of that. And he has set a culture that they play hard, they play to win, they don't give up on games. And you're going to see some positives out of that the rest of the season and into 2023. I think it's going to be, the arrow's pointing up with Smith as the head coach.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but do you think the Falcons would be in better position for the playoffs if Matt Ryan was still there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Because I think he and Smith would have found a better ways of working with each other. And
because the offense wasn't always great last year either. I do think that Mariota in some ways fits what Arthur Smith wants to do a little bit better. But
I think Ryan and Smith had a problem meshing last year. As far as I think, given an off season and given a chance, they would have come together a lot more about what they wanted to do, how they wanted to run the playbook. I tell you one thing, Matt Ryan wouldn't be missing all the throws that Marcus Mariota is missing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Ryan isn't having exactly a stellar season with Indianapolis, but my God, it actually looks like the Falcons have a better offensive line now than Indianapolis does, which is the reason why people were happy Ryan left.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he'll finally get to play on a team that has a good offensive line, and he went to back to a team that has a bottom 5 offensive line. So unfortunate for him, and maybe this. I think we learned this lesson a lot in sports, but two sides that maybe didn't want to stay together. I mean, Ryan wanted to stay, but didn't after the whole Deshaun Watson
not
thing.
after Deshaun Watson, because as I say, they had worked out the extension.
Yeah.
They had worked out the money to keep Ryan under the salary cap and give the Falcons space under the cap. And the minute Deshaun Watson entered the picture, the minute Arthur Blank entered the picture for Deshaun Watson, and I don't think that was Terry Fontenot at all.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
But the minute Arthur Blank went into the Deshaun Watson game, as I looked at Spot Rack that week, and the extension was gone. The numbers had disappeared as far as the rolling the numbers down for another 3 years. That was gone. So you could tell that Ryan had nixed the extension. That was it. He had taken it personally, and that was all. He was going to go.
But the lesson I was trying to get to was they were better off together. Both sides, turns out, would have been
really
better off to stay together. So,
because as I say, Smith, I don't think is stuck in a system that you just cannot, because you get so many coaches that say, yeah, I'm going to fit him into my system. And maybe the guy doesn't fit your system.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot.
Yes.
You're just, you don't play the way this guy wants to play. You're a good player, but you don't play the way he wants you to play. So you end up on the outs. I think Smith and Matt Ryan would have come to a meeting of the minds and would have looked a lot smoother this year than they did last year.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair take to have. The passing game certainly would be much better with Ryan than with Mariota.
Oh, God, yeah.
Pantera has a comment for us. I got a feeling Atlanta gets dominated on both sides and loses handily to the Commanders. They have 3 fast wide receivers, dual running backs, 1 power guy, and Gibson that has the short pass ability. Atlanta has been dominated by 10-catch RBs. So not a lot of optimism for Pantera, from Pantera about the Falcons against the Commanders tomorrow.
No, and I could see why. No, it's not going to be easy. But you're looking at a Falcons team that figured out how to keep Justin Fields from hurting you. And Justin Fields, ran for 78 yards. But, the Falcons managed to find a way to keep Fields in front of them and keep Fields from doing major damage. And that's the thing, that Atlanta is flexible enough to rework their game plan for this week, seeing who they're going against. I'm not saying they're going to be successful, but they are going to rework things to try and keep McLaurin, keep Gibson under control.
Well, that leads us to Nostradamus predicts. Do you have a prediction for Falcons Commanders? You're going elsewhere with your picks this week?
Going elsewhere with my picks this week. I got burned last week. Oh, God. Atlanta, you're killing me. Plus, you also put my quarterback out, dislocated his shoulder. So that, I'm not going to forgive that anytime soon. So believe it. But no, I'm staying away from the because it's just too much up in the air. The Commanders have been up and down. The Falcons have been up and down. I don't know what we're going to see tomorrow. I really don't. And I'm going to be fascinated to watch that game. But I do have the Seattle Seahawks, -3.5 against the Las Vegas Raiders, who the Las Vegas Raiders just completely Josh McDaniels is going to flee Las Vegas and climb back under the hoodie for protection because
hey, they won last week.
Yeah, they won last week. They beat the freaking Denver Broncos. How wonderful. No, again, the main thing is Geno Banks has been, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's Pete Carroll.
Geno Smith.
Geno Smith? Yeah, that Geno Smith. Who did I say? Oh, jeez. Geno
You
Smith.
said Geno Banks. I'm not sure where you
Geno
got.
Banks. Yeah, I don't know where I got that one from. Oh, God. These moments, I'm telling you, Dave.
But yeah, no, you're right. Geno Smith.
Another 20 years, another 25 years. You've got to watch it.
Well,
But-
I think the first 10 years of Geno Smith's career, you wish he would have gone by Geno Banks.
Right.
And now it was
I know.
Geno Smith. But he's
It's amazing. I don't know where he's come from because
Yeah.
normally, after the first 3 or 4 years, you kind of know what you're going to get in a quarterback. And with Geno Smith, there was nothing. And
Well,
now
another lesson learned that, this happens, I think, more often than we realize. It kind of happened with Ryan Tannehill too, where it wasn't the first 3 years or so that
but Tannehill was in a terrible situation.
Well, do you think Geno Smith was in a great situation with Rex Ryan and the Jets?
No, but still, I'm not. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is Pete Carroll. Maybe the quarterback whisperer is right there because Pete Carroll's really got that team playing well. Yeah. I thought Pete Carroll was on his way to getting fired this year after they lost Wilson. And
I mean, you weren't the only one who thought that he wasn't going to even come back this year. And then coming into this season, people had him on the hot seat like you did. And
the hell of it is Pete Carroll, age. I get tired of people equating age with success in the NFL. Yeah, he's 70 years old. He knows he's forgotten more football than most coaches around the NFL know at this time. But he has such enthusiasm for the game. And I think that rubs off on his players.
Yeah. No, I think he
loves football.
He was one of the first players coaches. If you want to go back and look at it, he's an old guy and been coaching a while, but he was always a player's first coach. And what he's doing in Seattle is clearly working with Geno Smith and completely changes the narrative around him and Wilson. Wilson being the guy that everybody was saying was the reason why the Seahawks were having success, and why don't they pass the ball more with him? Why are they running so much? They're so backwards in their logic that they think Drew Lock or Geno Smith can play there and start, and them being a competitive team. And they've been more than competitive. They're in the playoffs if the playoffs started today.
Right.
So, and Russell Wilson, we all know.
They're in the number 7 spot, but yeah, they make the playoffs right now with Geno Smith as your quarterback.
And Geno Smith's playing really well.
Geno Smith's been fantastic this year. It's just amazing to me that how well he's played.
So you've got the Seahawks over the Raiders?
Yeah, I got Seahawks over the Raiders. I have the Tennessee Titans are getting 2.5 points this week. I think the Titans they are the Rodney Dangerfields of the NFL. No respect. No respect. Nobody thinks Titans can win jack. They're not even favored this week. And
they're playing the Bengals?
Playing the Bengals, who I think is, the Bengals are on the road in Tennessee. Jamar Chase is still injured. I don't think Burrow's having anywhere near the season he had last year. I think the Bengals are overrated going into this game. I think Tennessee, nobody is paying attention to Tennessee.
No Joe Mixon either in that game.
And and Tennessee's won 7 out of their last 8 games.
Yeah.
And not an easy schedule either. So I'm really.
They also have the extra time off. They played Thursday.
Right.
Last week.
And just kicked the Packers all over Lambeau Field. And you want to talk about love and loathe? I love that.
You brought that up last week, Tom.
I love that. Kick the Packers all over Lambeau Field. But I don't think the Tennessee Titans get the respect around the league that they should. And I am taking them plus 2.5 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Ravens, another team I don't think get near the respect that they should get around the NFL. They are favored by 4 against Jacksonville. Take the Ravens minus the 4. Because Jacksonville is they're not playing the first 3 weeks of the season. I thought Jacksonville had really found something.
It's true.
But they got their butt beat by the Chiefs last week. Did beat the Raiders, but not by much. And lost to the Broncos, who, it should be a black spot on your record this year if you lose to the Broncos. Nathaniel Hackett is just a joke as a head coach. And yeah, you could, anybody who's friends with Nathaniel Hackett, you could tell them that I said that he's a joke as a head coach. So, any of our fans, if you run into him, go ahead. I'm all for it. I also have, get this one now. The Jets I got a fourth one. Jets -4 against the Bears.
Jets
Justin Fields is not expected to play. He has got a dislocated left shoulder. Justin Fields shouldn't play. Yeah. Justin Fields has proven that he is quarterback one for the Bears for the next few years. He has nothing left to prove to me. Playing him and taking an opportunity to get him more injured to increase, to do more damage to the left shoulder is just foolish to me. Don't put him out there. You don't have to play him for the next 2 weeks. Keep Justin Fields on the sidelines. Now, I know Zach Wilson is not quarterbacking for the Jets, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because Zach Wilson's just Zach Wilson's not going to be quarterback for the Jets next year. Bears are going to be facing Mike White. But again, the Bears are a defense you can get on top of. The Bears are struggling to find a leader since Roquan Smith was traded.
Yeah.
To the Baltimore Ravens, who he's playing very well for, by the way. Which is another reason why I think the Ravens are kind of not looked at as seriously as they should right now. So I don't think, the Bears with their running game, they're going to have to rely on their running game to steamroll the Jets. Jets have an outstanding defense. This is not going to be an easy game, especially if Trevor Siemian's starting for the Bears. It's not going to be an easy game for them to come near the Jets as far as scoring. So take the Jets -4.
So to recap, you've got the Jets, you've got the Ravens. What were your first two? You've got the Titans.
And I got the Seahawks.
And the Seahawks, right. Seahawks.
Play them.
What's the spread in the Seahawks-Raiders game?
Seahawks -3.
Oh, okay.
They're playing in Las Vegas, but Seahawks -3. They are a vastly superior team to the Raiders.
Yeah.
And as I say, Josh McDaniels is yearning for the hoodie again. And, he might actually get there this year. Might have to come crawling back to Bill Belichick and saying, "Oh, please, Bill, let me be something on your coaching staff, please." But
we'll see. There's a lot of reports he's going to stay.
Yeah, a lot of reports.
Yeah,
a lot of reports.
There are, but we'll see. We'll see that.
Raiders fans don't put up with this kind of crap. So.
I think Derek Carr is going to take the fall there. I think Derek Carr is going to be shipped out, and Josh McDaniels stays. That's my bold prediction. But we'll see.
That could be.
See what happens.
Very well could be. Derek Carr might be in his last. And the way things are going, I would say definitely Derek Carr is in his last days in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So
I think he's had a long leash there. Finally went to the playoffs last year. Was supposed to take a step forward off of that season. Didn't do that.
Wasn't gone anywhere.
He's had a couple of good seasons. Like even 2016, he was like an MVP candidate before he broke his leg that year. That was a good season. Even last year, he put up good statistical numbers, considering all they went through last year with Henry Ruggs and John Gruden and all the crap that they had to go through as a team. Him keeping them together was an impressive example of leadership, and he put up good numbers. But overall, I don't think he's been a top 10 quarterback like some other people think. And I think he's going to pay for his subpar season this year.
Yeah, I believe it. I don't think it's all his fault, but he is definitely going to take the hit.
Especially when you thought you're bringing in Devontae Adams, not only an elite wide receiver, but a receiver that he's familiar with in college. That was supposed to be such a perfect match that makes him a top 5 quarterback. That was what people thought when, people that thought he was already a top 10 quarterback. The Devontae Adams trade was supposed to take him to the next level. And
he went give him targets. It was going to give him intermediate and long targets that he could hit, but that hasn't happened. Now, I don't know if that's coaching or I don't know if that's Derek Carr, but I agree with you. I think Carr takes the hit.
Brian says that with no Pitts, they're going to stack the box Commanders will and make Mariota beat them through the air. So he's not very optimistic about the Falcons' chances offensively anyway. And I think that's why it's even more important, like we were saying at the top of the show, don't turn the ball over, because it's going to be raining and it's going to be a slog for the Falcons offense, but it could be a slog for Washington's offense as well, where they didn't move the ball that well against Houston. They ran it well against Philly, but they didn't dominate the Eagles other than in time of possession and on the ground. So if you take care of the ball, I think the Falcons have a shot. I think Brian and Pantera's comments are warranted, though, that it's going to be a tough matchup, a tough game for the Falcons. We have a score update from the very important Georgia Tech game from Brian as well. 7-3 Tech at the end of the first quarter.
Tech is playing tough. I don't know if they win this game, but they are playing some teams tough.
Yeah. It seems like they've taken a step forward this year. They've been waiting for a while, I think, for Jeff Collins, Georgia Tech, Yellow Jackets to take a step forward, and they finally are doing that. I think Jeff Collins is still the coach. He hasn't gotten fired mid-season, right? He was the coach at the beginning of the season. And we have a comment from Tony I wanted to get to. Cliff Kingsbury will be fired in Arizona. I think that's a pretty good prediction, Tony.
Absolutely.
I think Tom has been on that since the beginning of the season.
Yep.
I have not been a Kingsbury fan from the start either, and I agree. I think we both agree.
Kingsbury is gone.
He's not going to be the.
You are absolutely right. Going into the season, he was one of my coaches that I felt was already on the hot seat. So, his seat was smoldering then. It's gotten a lot hotter since.
Well,
he's got well done rumpus right now.
We're approaching the end of the show, Tom. I want to get to some prize picks. Today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app. When you do, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. And we have some picks for you to submit with that free money you get by using the promo code ASU. So you mind if I start?
No, go for it.
I've got 3 for you. I'm going back into the Russell Wilson well. 29.5 pass attempts. I'm going over. He just barely went over the 30.5, which was the mark last week, with 31 pass attempts against the Raiders last week. He's been over 30 pass attempts in every game but one this season, Wilson has. So with that pass attempts over under set at 29.5, I'm confident to go with the over. Eagles team over under 2.5 sacks against the Green Bay Packers. I'm going over. They've had more than 2.5 sacks the Eagles have had in each of their last 4 games since the bye. So I like them over with 2.5 against.
I agree with you fully. And you think the Packers, their two offensive tackles,
right?
Playing hurt, Bakhtiari and Jenkins.
Yeah.
So that's a great pick. I love that one.
Oh, thank you. And for my third one, I'm going with Miami Dolphins running back Jeff Wilson, 97.5 yards from scrimmage. Raheem Mostert is banged up. I don't think he's going to play. I believe he's officially questionable, but the Ian Rappaport tweet that I read yesterday, I think basically insinuated he was not going to play. You're going to see a lot of Jeff Wilson, and I think he's going to go over 100 yards from scrimmage tomorrow.
Okay. It's great. Great run. I think you could win with those.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think you should
What
put
do you-
down. Definitely.
what do you
throw
got
down
for
on
us?
those. I got Terry McLaurin plus 60.5 yards.
Oh,
Now
you're
that-
going against the home team.
Going against the home team because I think he could throw against the Falcons. And rain or not, I think McLaurin has been over that mark most of the season. So, and he's the guy for the Commanders. He's the guy who makes it work. I am also going, and this is I know a lot of people are going to question this one. Patrick Mahomes, 285.5 yards. He's been over 300 yards all year.
Yeah.
Even when he has a rough game, he's over 300 yards. And he's playing a very bad Los Angeles Rams team. He's playing them at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he takes advantage of that. No, Kansas City does not run the ball well, but you got Patrick Mahomes.
The only concern I'd have with that pick is if Kansas City goes up, because of a pick six or defensive score, or their defense sets them up in short field position, and Mahomes just doesn't need 300 yards for them to score 30 points. I think that's a possibility, but if he's throwing 40 times, he's absolutely going to get 300 yards.
He's still usually throwing in those situations.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Andy Reid does not take the ball out of his hands. So, and that's another thing I'm looking at, is that he gets a lot of targets to Kelsey, to Juju Smith-Schuster. They don't take the ball out of his hands. Even their running back, Valdez-Scantling. He's a wide receiver. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But McKinnon even goes out and it is an effective receiver for him. So, he does a lot in the passing game. He tends to do a lot. I think he's only missed 300 yards once this season. So I do like Mahomes throwing against a very undermanned, not going to have Matthew Stafford, not going to have Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
And I think Chiefs are going to go to town.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like that. And what's my third one? I had a third one here.
Brian, while you're looking for your third pick, I want to get to this comment from Brian. Mostert is listed as doubtful, so an even more of a reason to go with Jeff Wilson, because Mostert is not even questionable; he's doubtful. Thanks.
Yeah, I've heard Mostert's doubtful, but I've also heard that he's not expected to play.
Yeah,
so, definitely not expected to play.
Yeah.
I don't have my third one here. I did have a good third one, but I can't find it right now. But play those two and play one of Dave's.
Yeah. I think you need 3 officially to have a full entry. You can do up to 5. So if there's one that you like and you want to use R4, or you could use R5 because we gave you 5 today, or use 2 of ours, 1 of yours, or 2 of your own, 2 of ours, whatever. Just let us know if you win a little bit of money this week.
Right.
To hear success stories from Prize Picks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Use our promo code.
We don't get that every week. We want to hear what you do. Tell us how well you do.
Yeah.
I want to hear how much money you're all making. So that's it.
Let's wrap up today's show with some Super Bowl picks, Tom. I'm going to stay with the Kansas City Chiefs. I was with them last week, and I'm going to stay with the Eagles, but I am leaning more towards the 49ers. We had this conversation about the 49ers at the end of last week's show, and Brian, I think, on the 49ers train, our loyal watcher, Brian Friedman. What San Francisco did Monday night against a bad Cardinals team, but what they were able to do in that game was really impressive. And I don't want to overreact to it, but I'm really liking what's going on in San Francisco. But my Super Bowl pick officially for after, going into week 12, Super Bowl pick is Philadelphia and Kansas City.
All right. Right now, I would say I'm with you on Kansas City in the AFC. I'm going to give you a little bit of a shocker. Minnesota Vikings.
Really?
Vikings are playing tough. They play, you can never count them out of a game. Beat the Bills, beat the Patriots, have some very quality wins on their schedule. Wins that you did not expect them to come out with. The only real bad game they played this year is against the Eagles, and that was week 2. So I would say look at the Vikings. The Vikings are sneaking up on everybody as far as being a quality team coming out of the NFC.
They didn't play very well against Cowboys either, obviously.
Well, that happens.
I agree that I don't put as much weight into that Cowboys game as probably other people. I think that was partially they were coming off such a high off of that Bills game. It was also maybe, I don't want to say they were overlooking the Cowboys, looking already to the Patriots, but 2 games in 5 days is tough. That's a tough thing, and teams deal with it all the time. I get it, but it's still a tough thing to do. And I just am surprised. I didn't think you were a big Kirk Cousins fan.
I'm not.
Yeah, so you're.
I'm not a big Vikings fan. Yeah, I'm a Bears fan. We don't.
Well, I didn't mean to say you're rooting. I didn't mean to say you're rooting for them. I just didn't think that you believed Kirk Cousins could be a quarterback that leads a team to the Super Bowl.
He's done a lot this year, as far as I say, bringing Minnesota back in games that you don't think he can bring them back in.
Yeah, no, I mean that's true.
I'm
absolutely true.
So far, I've been impressed with what the Vikings have done, and I want to see how they keep going. But don't forget them.
You're growing, Tom. We haven't gotten you to get you to say anything positive about Lambeau Field yet, but you said a lot of good things about Matthew Stafford at the end of last season, and now you're complimenting Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. You are really growing as a person.
Oh yeah, it's rough. It's tough when you've grown up wearing navy blue and orange your entire life. But Kevin O'Connell's done a great job with that team.
Yes. He absolutely has.
I'm really, and you're right. Yeah, the Cowboys kick their asses up and down the field. But, after you get done beating Buffalo and beating them the way you did, coming back and beating them, it's kind of tough to keep that high going.
Yeah.
And they came back and beat New England pretty badly played a tough game on Thanksgiving, but it came out on top, and it's a tough team. There's someone you don't want to be, have to reckon with when you get to the playoffs.
Hunter Henry catching a pass at the goal line, reaching for the goal line, and losing control of the ball. You just hate to see it as a Steelers fan. Just hate to see a Patriots tight end not be able to control the ball at the goal line.
I know.
Just hate to see it.
Oh, especially, I know.
And then the Patriots fans on Twitter complaining about it. Just,
Jesse James had control of that football and crossed the plane. That was not a fumble.
I know we could do another show.
Another
whole hour show on just that play.
Because I looked up the rules specifically for that play. He was not a pass catcher anymore. He had made a football move. He had turned into a runner.
And actually, I think no joking aside, or all joking aside, I guess, the Hunter Henry play, he wasn't a runner at that point. He really was still a receiver and had to control the ball to the ground. And so I think the NFL got that call right, but Patriot fans didn't understand the call, even though they benefited years ago from a call that was wrong.
Yeah.
But they put that play, the Jesse James play, into the same bucket of the Hunter Henry play, and they're actually different.
They're different plays.
And
right.
they look similar, but there's a difference between being a runner and reaching for the goal line and just catching the ball at the goal line and securing the ball on the ground.
Right.
And that's not what Hunter Henry was able to do. Jesse James was a runner, was down, had already scored.
He had gone from being a receiver to a runner. And as a runner, all you have to do is break the plane. Doesn't matter what you do when you hit the ground. As long as you break the plane with the football in your hands, that's a touchdown. So, yeah, made a big difference. And
that was a huge play in that game. It arguably cost New England that game. And, of course, Jesse James' play was a huge play, not just in that Patriots-Steelers matchup in December of 2017, but a huge play for the overall season. It changed who was going to host who was going to be the number 1, number 2 seed. The Patriots would have played the Jaguars in the division round instead of the Steelers. So that play just changed everything that season. But Tony Wright says Bills San Francisco, Bills 49ers.
Can't argue with you, Tony. Right now, I'm not going to argue with your logic there.
And the other prediction he has for us, the Vikings will reach the NFC Championship game, but lose to San Francisco. So
that would be typical Kirk Cousins.
Typical Minnesota too, right?
Yes.
They often get to big games and don't get the job done, unfortunately, in their entire history. You imagine if the Vikings played the Bills in the Super Bowl, 2 teams that are 0-4 in their Super Bowl history. That would be like Red Sox Cubs playing in the 2003 World Series.
It really would. It's hilarious because you're right. Somebody's got to win.
Right.
Somebody has to win because they're not going to stop that game until somebody wins it.
And somebody's going to go 0-5 too. So
right. So that would be wild. I didn't even think about that. That's a good one, Dave.
Yeah. But we're over time here. Thanks for staying with us for the full hour and change. We'll be back next Saturday. I do want to mention before we go, though, it's the last week of November. If you're still growing your facial hair like we are, donate your money that typically goes to your shaving products this month to a great cause like No Shave November. The best place, I think, to make a donation to would be no-shave.org. And you can follow them on Twitter as well and find, read about their donations and their foundation, what your donation would go towards. It's not just prostate cancer. It's all types of men's health awareness and men's health problems. But I encourage everybody to not only participate in No Shave November, but make that donation this month and this week being the last week in November.
Absolutely. Just a great cause and one I endorse wholeheartedly and hope everybody is taking advantage of this month.
Well, we'll be back for the first Saturday in December next week. We'll see you then.
All right. Have a great week, everyone.